Welcome to Ground Control. I did complete a conversion of this XKJ3 Cub. It's pretty heavy for a plane that already had heavy wing loading. I wish I would have had all the components that I had wanted to do this conversion, so I don't know if this is going to work out very well or not. But I have a 1407 3500 kV motor in it, a 10 amp speed controller, a 6x3 high efficiency composite prop, a 6-channel receiver, just a standard receiver, no gyro, two 2.5 gram servos that I replaced the servos with on the stock receiver gyro board. I would have liked to have had 2 gram servos instead of 2.5 gram servos for this plane. I think that would have been adequate. A 6 amp speed controller, a 4-channel receiver instead of a 6, and then I would have used a 1306 6x3 prop on this instead of the 1407, and that would have saved approximately 12 grams of weight. The stock weight, all-up weight on this plane with the battery that I like to fly in it is the 2S 450 mAh 35C, which is 5 grams lighter than the stock one, along with the nose weight that I had to put on it to get it balanced on the CG was 174 grams all-up weight. It is now 192 grams all-up weight. So I don't know how that's going to work out. I did take off my wing cuffs and kind of messed up my paint from where the painter's tape was. That paint comes off really easy if it's coming off with painter's tape. So I'll have to make it look pretty again after I do the test flight. I don't know if this is going to work with the plane as heavy as it is now, but we're going to give it a shot. I removed the wing cuffs because I didn't want those to interfere with the test. I didn't want those to create any adverse condition now that the plane is heavier. And I'm guessing, I don't have any thrust data for this specific prop on this motor, but looking at similar setups that I have thrust data for, I'm guessing that this is going to put out somewhere between 260 to 275 grams of thrust. So I should have somewhere between a 1.3 to 1 to a 1.4 to 1 thrust to weight ratio on this plane, which would be absolutely fantastic for having an aerobatic little bush plane. I did put a fully charged battery on it, I put a load meter on it, held it in the static position, and this motor and prop combination we're pulling 6.7 amps at full throttle in a static position. So looking at it conservatively, it shouldn't be pulling more than about 5.1 amps when it's flying in the air at full throttle. So I should still be able to get some pretty decent flight time out of it, and it's going to have a lot more power than the stock setup had. So I'm a little apprehensive about launching this as heavy as it is now, but we'll take it out and test it. Oh, and on the cowling, I really had to grind out a lot of the cowling so that it didn't rub this motor. I mean, this motor, and I had to put a spacer behind the prop to get the prop pushed out far enough away from the cowling that the prop didn't rub the cowling. So that was the only real airframe modification that I had to make for this setup, was the cowling. The opening on the cowling was so narrow for this motor. As you can see, this motor is right up against it. So let's take it out of the field, throw it in the air, and see what we have. If this doesn't work out very well, then I'm going to have to wait until I get some lighter weight components to put in it. If I would have had those components, I think I would only be about 4 to 6 grams heavier than it was stock. So I don't think that would be an issue. You know, it would glide in pretty well for a landing and had decent slow flight capability, even with the heavy wing loading and the stock setup at that weight. So I think if I can keep it at 180 grams or less, I think it'll be okay, but 192 I think is pushing it. So anyway, we'll throw caution to the wind, take it out, throw it up in the air, and see what we'll do. See how it feels.
Okay, I'm out here with the XK A160 J3 Cub. First time in manual mode. I have it balanced exactly the same as I had it when it had its gyro receiver in it. But you never know if your balance is correct until you put it in manual mode. So I have no idea what we're going to get. But let's go ahead and get it in the air and see what we have. That's not good. I don't know why I'm getting so much movement to the left. It just wanted to roll over. Surely there's not that much torque roll. Let's see. Let's try it again. That is iffy. Wow, that thing really wants to climb. Wow, no, the balance is terrible. I really need to add some more weight to that nose. I was worried that 1407 motor was going to be a little too heavy, but no. That was very iffy. I'm having to fly with constant down elevator. No amount of trim is going to fix that. Wow, that is amazing. Balance is terrible. No wonder it wanted to roll over. Heck, it was stalling on takeoff. It's going to be interesting landing, I'll tell you. It's in the air, but it isn't doing very well. Not with this CG balance. Alright, I think what I'm going to do is try to land it and at least modify the linkage on the elevator so that it's not constantly pushing up, so I can at least test it out, see what I need to do. Okay, so make sure I don't have anybody coming. So let's bring it around and see if we can land it. It's going to be weird trying to land it with down elevator constantly in it. Oh yeah, we're going to stall. Yeah, we stalled. Okay. Let me make a linkage adjustment to that and then try it again. Boy, that balance is terrible. It just goes to show you, right? The balance on it with the gyro assist in it, like I said, you can never tell about the balance until you put it in manual mode, and that's so far off, that's ridiculous. But it's still in one piece, thankfully. I wasn't sure I was going to get it down in one piece the way it was handling when I launched it, but I'm going to I'm going to adjust the linkage on the elevator because no trim is going to get that. And then we'll throw it back in the air one more time. And then I'm going to have to see what I can do to put some more weight on the nose of it. Be back in a minute. Okay, so I mechanically trimmed down the elevator. And I added about 2.5 grams of nose weight to it. So let's see what we have now. Let's go ahead and get it in the air. Oh. That was definitely better. But is it good? That I don't know. I'm just doing bank and yank right now. Man, I tell you, we got more traffic out here today with the snow than when we don't. I think that's just about got it. I think I need a little more nose weight. Maybe about 4 grams of nose weight. And I was really concerned because this thing is about 195 grams now with the added 2.5 grams of nose weight. And I think I need to dial in a little more expo on the aileron. I'm flying a little higher than normal because this is the first time out with this in manual mode. Sure is quiet, a lot quieter than the stock motor. Seems like when I come out of a turn it wants to climb ever so slightly. So I'm going to have some trimming to do. We'll see what kind of elevator authority we have. Oh yeah, it looks like we have plenty of elevator authority. So, I don't know, let's try something when we come back through here. Gain a little altitude. Ooh, it didn't like that, did it? I think I pulled back too hard on the stick. I think I got more elevator than I thought I had. Yeah, that's much better. That was a pretty good loop, wasn't it? Okay, so let's lose a little altitude. Yeah, I got plenty of elevator. I pulled back too hard on the elevator and actually stalled it. Not enough speed there. I've got my timer set for 5 minutes. Okay, so that's a left roll. That's going with the torque of the motor. Bring it back around. And see what we have going counter torque. I'm sure it's going to be slower. Oh, well heck, that looked faster going counter torque, didn't it? I'm going to have to check my linkage, or maybe I was just going, maybe I was going with a little more speed and a little more throttle. Let's try that again left. Yeah, I think it does look slower going counter torque, so I don't know, I'll have to adjust my linkage. I think that's the first time I've rolled a plane. Thank you. I think that was the first time I've rolled a plane where it had more speed rolling going counter torque than it did going with the torque. Okay, so let's try a loop again. I'm not happy with my yeah, I think I just didn't pull through well enough there and it kind of stalled on me. Okay, so yeah, it just kind of rolls out of the loop. Ah. Okay, so I really don't want to test stall characteristics on this until I get the trims and the balance right, so that I have good opportunity to recover from it. But I like what I'm seeing so far. Like I said, it needs some trim and it needs, oh, I'm out of battery power. Ooh, my timer just went off. So let's bring it back around. I'm definitely out of battery power. All right. I'm going to check the voltage in that battery real quick. That's one of my old 2S 450 milliamp hour lipos. So I had my timer set for 5 minutes and that thing was pretty much out of juice there. So anyway, I will see you back at the HQ and I'll give you the information on what I've learned so far on this plane. But I think by the time I'm finished adjusting it, this is going to be a nice aerobatic little bush plane. And it still seems like, even at 195 grams weight, it still seemed like it had plenty of lift coming in for a landing, didn't it? Alright, see you back at the HQ.
Okay, so what'd you guys think? That was kind of a frosty flight out there. But I know the first flight was absolutely atrocious, and you saw when I tried to launch it the first time that it just you know, rolled left and then nose down, and that was because it was stalling. Just as soon as I let go of it, the nose was pushing up and it was stalling and then coming back down to the ground. But you didn't see it spiral down, did you? It just, you know, it turned left because of the motor torque and then nose down. But no damage whatsoever to the plane. So after I made the adjustments to the elevator, mechanical adjustment to the elevator linkage to bring the elevator down a bit, and let me see, I can't remember, did I add nose weight to it at that time? I can't remember. But the second flight was much better, wasn't it? And I was pretty happy with the roll rate. I just need to get the roll rate more symmetrical, going with the torque and anti-torque with the direction of the motor. Okay, so one thing that I discovered during the flight is I think there needs to be more right angle to the motor. I think the reason why it was angling to the left when it was stalling was because of the motor torque. Now, I have the same amount of angle in the motor mount that it had with the stock motor, but the stock motor was a lot weaker than this motor, and it had a 5-inch prop instead of a 6-inch prop. So the 6-inch prop is going to add a little additional motor torque compared to that 5-inch prop. So here's what I think I'm going to do, because it was tail heavy when I took off. Now this is a fairly heavy motor. I think it's 18 or 19 grams, this 1407 motor that I've got on here, and you know, the 6-inch prop is going to be heavier than the 5 it had on it. So here's what I'm going to do before I do anything else. I'm going to modify the motor mount. I'm going to bring this motor out 6 millimeters from where it is now. Now that'll do two things. It'll give me room to put more right angle into the motor, but it will also bring that weight forward 6 millimeters, so I probably will not have to have any weight underneath the nose in order to prevent that tail heavy condition. So I think it's going to take care of two issues. I think it's going to get the balance back where I need it, and it's also, we're putting a little more right angle into it, is also going to remove that motor torque that's wanting to roll this left, which I think was pretty evident, you know, on that launch. I think that's precisely what was going on. But this is something else too. You know, the way I have this plane balanced, when it had the gyro receiver in it, the plane flew fine when it had gyro assist, but you can never tell how well a plane is balanced until you put it in manual mode. And I had this plane, when I took it out there, the plane was balanced exactly the same way it was when the gyro receiver was installed in the plane with the stock motor, and that worked extremely well. The balance that I had on it worked extremely well, but you saw the difference in the balance between the gyro receiver and the stock motor and the new motor with the larger prop and a standard receiver. And this is completely manual mode now. There's no gyro in it whatsoever. So that is two things that I'm going to do before I take it back out. It looked to me, I haven't tested the rudder yet, but it looked like I had plenty of elevator. As a matter of fact, when I was performing the loops the first couple of times, I had so much elevator in it and it was pulling back so tight that I think it was actually stalling the plane. But did you also see what the plane did when it stalled? When it was inverted and it stalled, it just rolled right over and went on. So I think the stall characteristics on this are going to be pretty good and easy to recover from. But I'm not going to test that until I get everything else done, make sure that I get everything trimmed out. I have my control surface deflections exactly the way I want them, and I take care of this motor torque by putting a little more right angle in it, bring the motor out 6 millimeters to add a little nose weight to get the balance back where it needs to be. So let's see. Oh, and this is not the prop that I used when I performed my thrust test on this motor. I just used I think it was either a Gemfan or Diatone 6x3 ABS prop. This is my favorite 6-inch prop on the 3S. But looking at the numbers, the thrust numbers that I had when I tested this motor and the ABS 6x3 prop, I do not think this is producing as much thrust on a 2S as what the ABS prop was producing. So when I take it back out again, I'm going to have the 6x3 ABS prop on here to get the maximum amount of thrust and efficiency out of this motor that I can get. And according to the thrust numbers that I have from testing this motor, I should be able to do that. So I think that's it. I'm going to have, I made a couple more adjustments after the first couple of flights. I did perform one more test flight on it, and I used the stock battery, which is even 5 grams heavier than the 450 that I used. And so I was pushing about 200 grams. So I really don't like that. So I'm going to have to put it on a diet and trim some weight off of it as well. I don't have a smaller receiver I can put in it right now, and I don't have 2 gram servos. I put 2.5 gram servos in it. So I don't know. There may not be a way to trim the weight off of it other than to use a lighter weight battery. But we'll have to see. I would like to get it down. I would like to eventually get it down to 180 grams when I can get the components that I would like to use for it. So anyway, stay tuned. I'll be posting the other test flight video fairly soon after this one, and by the time I post that one, I should have the adjustments made to this plane. So after the next test flight, you'll see it with the other modifications and adjustments that I'm going to make to it. I think once I get those done, I think I'm going to have an awesome flying little aerobatic bush plane. I really do. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.